A dark room with a black silhouette standing in it. In that garb, he looks like death. The white-haired boy's hands are pulling him along like hell, limbs grasping at the helpless little boy's body, ripping his chest open as if it were a cosmos. He's spoken to. The frightened, distressed boy looks up at him. In front of the boy stands the very same death-like silhouette. In his hands is a staff. He's finally found it. A young man with electric lightning traveling through his body screams in pain. The hands from the portal practically ripped all the way down the guy's chest. A black silhouette stands right in front of this heartbreaking scene. He enjoys it by saying just one word: seed. A boy lying on the ground holding a transformer was splashed with water. It was done by some guy to wake up the little boy lying on the ground. There were several other people behind him. They're obviously up to something. The white-haired boy didn't realize what had happened. That's when he gets hit in the chest with a bully's leg. The boy kicked him and demanded answers when asked. The boy flies off to the side, knocking over a chair with his back. The bullies mock the beaten man for not letting go of his toy, even when beaten. They call the transformer a stupid doll that is so stupidly important to him. The boy looks at the boys with a sizzling gaze, as if he's up to something. One of the trio grabbed him by the collar, calling the unfortunate man a jerk. The brawler didn't like the look in the white-haired boy's eyes. As he prepares to strike with his fist, the same bully says, "You're definitely going to let her go today." And there came blow after blow. The guy stopped what he was doing, not realizing what was happening. He called the poor guy a bastard. The bullies don't understand what's wrong with this boy. Bruised and bruised, still holding the toy in his hands, he lies on the pavement with an indifferent expression on his face. Realizing that the source of amusement was boring, the trio walked away, nicknaming the white-haired boy a dumb asshole. The transformer that the boy had clutched so tightly to his chest spoke, "Finally, it's over." The battered kid wonders how these guys still haven't gotten tired of it. Toy doesn't realize what he's up to. Trivia: the boy wants to help the bullies a little and applies his magic. Something flies to the back of the head of the one throwing the punches. As if dead, the idiot fell to the ground with a huge bump on his empty head. The white-haired boy didn't stop, telling him not to exaggerate, for one doesn't die from such things. He didn't stop, and thanks to magic, punched the next idiot in his stupid face. Transformer thinks it probably hurt. When the boy was about 5 years old, he sealed the spirit of Parvash in his toy, though he calls him Parvash because that's the name he got from the name of a robot toy. As a child, the boy did not even realize that he was a magician. Therefore, the story Parvash told was shocking. Humans live in a world where there are absolute beings who control all dimensions, and they are called seekers. There are countless dimensions in the universe. Seekers create channels that connect one dimension to another and control them. The seeker, who is responsible for the dimension in which the boy lives, saw in the young man the mage's abilities and laid the seed of the channel. It will grow with his body. In 20 years, it'll be fully grown. And that's when the trouble starts. If the finder finds the white-haired boy again, he and the seed will become the channel between dimensions. And of course, that would mean his agonizing death. Parvash tells the boy, whose name is Minjun, that there are only two ways to survive in this situation. The first way is to create a barrier and hide behind it for the rest of his life. The second way is to use the channel of your body to escape to another dimension. In the second case, you will have to live in constant running. Minjun, with a seed burning brightly in his chest, thinks about a life on the run, though he realizes it will be very difficult. Then, if he finds it very difficult, he must diligently perform magical training to create a barrier. Such a way out doesn't arouse the young man's enthusiasm either. A white-haired boy doubts his talent for magic. He begins to think it won't work. Parvash reminds us that the maturation of the boy and the seed coincide. That's why, as the robot toy says, Minjun has plenty of time to learn how to create a barrier. This will succeed if the white-haired guy listens attentively and does not shirk from learning. Having decided on the goal, which was to create a protective barrier, the red-eyed boy agreed. Parvash is undoubtedly happy about it. From that moment on, Minjun's training becomes more complicated. Yoon Minjun, age 14. The skills of a white-haired kid at 17. Abilities at the time of his 19th birthday. D-Day. The barrier over the city is in place. And here he is, a 20-year-old young man is proud of the result of the work, in which he put a lot of effort and perseverance, working tirelessly all his conscious life. Parvash says that with a barrier of this strength and scale, Minjun can live and not be caught by the seeker. The white-haired boy exclaimed happily that he would be able to enjoy what he had missed in his years of training. The spirit said it would be a little difficult for him. The difficulty is that the boy won't be able to go beyond the barrier. Where, Minjun? Can you get money to live on if the allowance is almost over? The spirit asks. This was something the young man hadn't thought about yet, as he spent years building a protective barrier. The red-eyed kid doesn't want to work without learned magic. He searches the internet for something where he can use his magic skills. The young man came across an article online where actress Lee So-rin revealed that she had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. After seeing that, an idea flashed through Minjun's head. The branch of the regeneration tree found in dimension XX is combined with the iron of the Ashimp channel and purified water. The white-haired young alchemist has an elixir. The girl has terminal cancer. You'd better prepare for the worst, replies the doctor to the sobbing girl. In the background, in a hospital bed in a ward, lies a lifeless girl being killed by an incurable disease. She thinks about the fact that she will die in vain, having done nothing useful in her life. Minjun magically appears in the window of the ward with Lee So-rin breathing with her last strength. The young man uses the prepared elixir for the girl. Eyes devoid of any hope of a cure stare at this white-haired guy. The girl had already prepared herself to accept her death, for the treatment she had undergone had not helped at all. He smiles at her in the light of the beautiful moon and dissolves into particles, disappearing from Lee So-rin's sight. The actress thought it was a real angel. The girl defeated cancer. Minjun's account received 50 million won. Parvash is surprised by this figure, and the young man seems to have found a job. He wants to make money using his ability to do magic. Glowing and crying with happiness, he thinks he's going to be rich. Dimension 7E, the herb garden of life. Some pink creature is eating those very herbs deliciously. With a shout, Minjun grabs the grass of life. The unfortunate beast flies off to the side. "Great catch!" yells a guy flying into the canal at the speed of light. Parvash was surprised at the speed of the white-haired youth. He explained his speed by the fact that he wanted to earn money. They got a lot of messages from celebrities, about 30 people in total. These orders were all thanks to Lee So-rin, who did a great job of spreading the rumors. People must have been surprised, because this remedy can help even in the late stages of cancer. Minjun is very proud of the work he has done. Enjoying the moment, the white-haired young man enjoys the moment and drinks a sweet drink, because 2 months ago, he had nothing to pay the rent. The phone lying on the table goes ringing off the hook. He received a call from the actress he cured of late-stage pancreatic cancer. The girl informs him that she has 1 elixir left. She asks him to send another batch of new ones the next day. Without blushing at his insolence, the boy informs her that the material costs have gone up, and if Lee So-rin wants same-day delivery, she'll have to pay 100% surcharge. The girl agrees to everything and tells him not to worry about the money. Parvash is surprised that he's leaving again. Minjun said there was an urgent order from an actress. He doesn't have a minute of rest. "Looks like he's become a businessman," says the robot toy. He noticed something trying to break the barrier in the sky. What they feared most had happened. Minjun is unhappy that there are so many monsters in the dimension he is in. The guy thinks about adding a danger percentage to the fee. He whines about the fact that the herbs he needs grew in this very spot. Quickly come back, get some work done, take a shower, order some chicken. Oh, maybe play some games I missed. Legend of Adex is still lying around untouched, thinks the white-haired boy, activating the dimensional portal with a seed. Stepping into another dimension, the young man thinks about a can of beer, but he has no idea what happened while he was gone. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed an explosion outside his windows. High-rises explode and burn. Cars are flying sideways from the explosions, as if the apocalypse has descended on the city. He doesn't understand what's going on in the city. He's only been away for a short time. It would seem that what could happen in such a short period of time. To the sound of explosions and fire, Parvash reports a channel on the ground. The young man does not fully understand the essence of what is happening. The spirit doesn't know the reason, but a portal has suddenly opened in their dimension. But more importantly, this channel is a new one, and in the process, he destroyed the barrier they had created. Minjun realizes that if the portal is destroyed, the Seeker will get to him, and he may die soon. 2 hours, the men notice something scary towering above the ground. Someone's voice asks you to follow instructions and orders you to remain calm. Creatures began to run out of this hole, showing by their appearance that they had not come for friendship with humanity. Compared to humans, they were enormous in size. Nicknaming the creatures monsters, the people, in fear for their lives, ran away from the place. On the news channel on TV, a reporter reports an invasion of terrifying creatures that are destroying everything in their path. Parvash is watching this. He says it's strange that the channel's creatures have broken the barrier. Ashvim giants have appeared right in the middle of the city. This situation is suspicious and very serious. Although they have a nasty temper, these giants don't usually prey on small creatures like humans. The spirit is alarmed by this. He is waiting for Minjun to return. All people are evacuated, ordering them to beware of the monsters. The reporter says fire and police have already arrived on the scene. No, not again! We have to turn off the sirens! Parvash shouts to himself. Loud noises provoke the monsters even more. Ashvim destroy the sources of loud noises, which to them sounds like ultrasound. The girl, being in the center of the events taking place, asks for help. At present, Minjun's house. Parvash is trying to bring him to his senses. The white-haired young man has a panic attack, but the spirit shouts that the seeker hasn't found him yet, and in situations like this, you need to stay calm. Although the robot asks the guy to calm down, he himself is disturbed by the broken barrier because there are no materials or time to rebuild the barrier. The reporter reports, yes, we are near the Han River, where the monsters have appeared. Right now, the military is making attempts to stop them and minimize the damage, but the battle is fierce. The humans against Ashvim use powerful missiles and every possible weapon available. But, as the reporter points out, the monsters use some semblance of shields. Parvash says that the creatures use the barrier tree, which allows them to create barriers quickly and easily. With it, they will be able to create a barrier again. Yoon Minjun is still shaking with the realized fear of his impending death. The spirit grounded the guy by throwing a bottle at the back of his head. The robot asks the boy to calm down and listen to him. The military can defeat the giants if they use powerful weapons, but what will happen to the city? To our barrier? We'll be razed to the ground. People are dying right now. Minjun wants to act like the ultimate coward, escape to another dimension. Parvash knew that the young man would think about this decision. The Seekers will have no problem tracking the boy in other dimensions. He'll have to consider that he'll have to run around the dimensions for the rest of his life. A white-haired guy asks his spirit for advice. He is at a loss and doesn't know what to do. Parvash then asks to pay attention to the item in Ashvim's hands. This branch will help solve the problem with the barrier. Minjun doesn't know how to fight such giants since he hasn't fought such giants. Sure, they're bigger than the monsters you faced, but they're still a race of low intelligence that uses primitive magic. Remember the severity of the training you've gone through over the years. You can win, Minjun, says the spirit to him. Fear is great, but the white-haired young man is ready to resist the messages of fate and change his future. Yes, he's scared, but he needs to be. Yoon Min has to deal with all of this. In an attempt to escape from the dangerous creatures, the boy inadvertently fell on the pavement at the feet of the running people. A mom calls out to her baby boy named Seo Jun. Ashvim with his giant hand practically reached the tiny creature lying on the ground. Minjun flew to the rescue like a new hero. The monster died suddenly, and the white-haired young man saved the child. The family was reunited again. The boy survived. Now the white-haired boy is facing danger. He's serious about getting rid of the ugly monster. In a scream of rage, Ashvim swung his arm to turn our hero into a flapjack. Minjun, with Parvash on his shoulder, didn't realize in the moment what was happening, and the monster made a hard slam into the ground. But there was no one under his palm. The white-haired young man floated in the air, taunting the stupid creatures who didn't realize what had happened. He cast a perception impairment spell on the monsters, but it didn't work. Parvash believes that the mage who holds the barrier tree is the cause. If the magic becomes stronger, it will be detected quickly. Let's start with confidence. You're strong, Minjun. Keeps his brother's spirit alive. Hands approach the white-haired guy floating in the air. The Ashvims, emitting their breath and last sounds, fall dead to the ground with a rumbling thud. The monster misses again, for the young man is faster and more agile than the giants. The creatures on the ground make attempts to do some damage to the flyer. Minjun takes the dissolve spell, and sharp-toothed beasts fly at Ashvim from the green cloud of magic. The acid dissolves them in seconds. The mage communicates something in their language to the other companions. Reinforcing the barrier, sheltering the others, the mage Ashvim is about to do something about it, making a swing with the barrier tree. Hovering above the creatures, Minjun sees the tree they need. But there's an explosion that sends the guy flying away. The white-haired young man tries using the spell Pebbles from a Dry Creek. Huge rocks flew at the barrier created by the mage Ashvim. Guy was able to create a crack in these monster defenses. Under the oppression of flying rocks, the ugly creatures began to die one by one. There seems to be one last survivor left, following their instincts, ready to confront further. But he didn't have a chance to do anything against Minjun either. People see that the monsters have started to die suddenly. The white-haired young man is stronger than he could have imagined. The boy wonders if he has such strength thanks to years of hard training. The boy noticed the Ashfim barrier tree lying on the ground. He's trying to rebuild that branch. Thanks to his power and the barrier tree, the barrier that was previously destroyed is once again formed over the city. The defense is now stronger and better than the previous one. Minjun is undoubtedly happy about this event because he had time to think that he was going to die. Parvash reminded the young man of the portal in the middle of the city. The white-haired boy suggested putting up a barrier and sealing it. "Inside!" shouts the spirit. A single word spoken could ruin all the joy of the day. Minjun silently stares at that magic portal. It's all about the barrier case there. The first thing the young man needs to do is stock up on such cases. If even the foolish Ashvims had it, there should be plenty of branches on the other side. The second reason to go inside the portal is the Ashvims themselves, for they may come again. The boy needs to scare them so badly that they'll never even think of taking a step in that direction. But this journey and goals have risks. Minjun might meet seekers of other dimensions. They usually don't pay much attention to such things, but using excessive amounts of magic will definitely attract them. I think the benefits are worth it, Minjun. Look at the chaos around you. Of course, the final decision is yours, Parvash says. Del Dimension, giant trees stand in the blue light. The blue orcs are fighting someone in a fierce battle. A great number of Ashvims also appeared in their dimension. These giants are mobbing the people of Del. Their axes cut through monsters in no time. There's no end to the enemies. They come one after another. One of the squad informs the senior squad of this. Powerless, the older man tells Hickam to back off because they can't handle it. Like a thunderbolt, someone wipes out the Ashvim crowd in one fell swoop. All the monsters are dead. The older man looks horrified at what has happened, thinking that a creature of another race did it. It was Minjun who had entered the portal after all. A red-eyed young man asks where he can find a barrier tree. The blue giants are surprised that humans can use such magic. They are also amazed at the clothes the young man is wearing. But our boy doesn't understand a damn thing and asks Parvash for help. The spirit suggested that their surprise could be explained by the fact that humans didn't normally use magic. Minjun thought that there are humans in this dimension too. But to be accurate, the robot watches the Akasha Chronicles, which contains all the knowledge of the universe. There are about 10,000 people living in the Dela dimension. The blue giants were once again surrounded by ugly Ashvims. The orcs would like to help, but they are in a rather dangerous situation, as observed by the white-haired guy himself. And then they went into battle together. An explosion forms behind Hickam, from which he has no time to escape. But the shockwave didn't hit the blue giant. He was saved by an elder using his magic. Mingjun thought about using large-scale magic by borrowing divine power, but he was afraid that this side would suffer as well. The white-haired youth asked his giant partner, "Hey, the protective magic you used! Can you cover everyone with it?" The older man doesn't understand what the man is up to, but the guy explained that he's going to use a large-scale attack. He ordered them to hide so they wouldn't get hit. The giant doesn't know what the man's plan is, but he activates his magic. But he's willing to give it a try and strikes the ground with magical power. A stone barrier formed around the blue creatures. Minjun used the Adeligo storm spell. A blue glow emanating from the young man's chest enveloped the ugly monsters. Under the protection, the giants were noisy, and the elder decided to scout the situation. Once outside, they found that everyone around them was dead. Piles of bodies were all around arranged on top of each other. "Sir, I've never seen a human being. No, I've never seen anyone capable of such a thing," Sister Minjun says. To him, this is a common thing. A white-haired young man announced that he came from another dimension. Everyone was pleased to meet him and introduced themselves from left to right. Elder Gur, Palo, and Hickam. The three thanked him for his help in fighting the Ashvim. As a sign of honor and respect, Gur extended his hand for a handshake. The young man introduced himself as Yun Mingjun, but suggested that he just call him Yun. The man was incomparably small in front of the blue dwellers, but incredibly strong. The guys asked the purpose of his journey to the Dela dimension. Then Yun showed the barrier tree. You could see on their faces that they were surprised that he had gotten it in another dimension. Then new giant friends revealed that this entire forest is filled with them. Minjun is amazed that all the trees in this forest are barrier trees. Then the elder told him that everyone called this forest the Great Forest, and asked the young man why such things were necessary for such a powerful mage. Gur didn't bother the boy and said they had a common goal: the Ashvim bastards. They're the Del giants that have lived here for generations, But 100 years ago, a portal suddenly opened in this place, and they have to fight these freaks that come out of it. Their tribe is in constant danger, so they too have come for the barrier tree. Senior, I'm starting to worry about you-know-who. Let's cut down the trees faster, Hickam said. Gur agreed, and they started to get to work, but only Yun didn't realize who they were talking about. It was about a seeker who lives somewhere in the Great Forest. The Seeker of the Dell Dimension lives here, hence the name Seeker of the Great Forest. Hickam says they rarely see him, but this forest is still someone else's home, and so wanted to get the trees and leave sooner rather than later. The young man was struck again by the panic fear of his death. What? Is this where the Seeker lives? Why? With the amount of magic I used, Minjun thought. Parvash shouted to him, reminding him that they needed to get out of here. Yun made the decision to leave right now, but he noticed something. Like a whirlwind, all four of us are teleported somewhere. Minjun opens his eyes and sees a seeker from another dimension. So it's you guys. Not only entered my territory, but you dared to use such a large amount of magic. That's very daring. You've disturbed my sleep. Any excuses? Try it if you don't want to die, says the seeker to the perpetrators of the celebration. Once again, Yoon experiences the fear of death, only now facing it head-on. A white-haired young man is in a shitty situation. He wonders how he got such an intimidating magical power. The aura even made the boy speechless. He was hoping he could escape from the seeker. The boy thinks that his death will be useless. It is as if the eye of Sauron is looking into the boy's eyes. He addresses him, calling him the man with the seed of the dead seeker in his chest. He wonders the purpose of being here. Minjun was about to say the reason, but stopped himself. What did you say? What? Dead seeker? Asks the young man. The white-haired guy started asking what the guy was talking about. Seeker realized that the bearer of the dead seeker's seed knew nothing. The dragon, the Earth Seeker, died 3 days ago. The cause is unknown, but the death was palpable. After his death, the barrier of the Earth dimension collapsed. The gap created a channel between the Dell Giants dimension and the dimension where Yoon lives. A guy who can use divine magic through the seed channel didn't even realize that Seeker was dead? Funny, says the Seeker of Dell's dimension. He inquired whether the spirit near the young man was aware of this. The Seeker had said enough. They'd amused him a bit, so he'd let everyone go this time. With the squad on their knees, the elder asks to wait and informs them that the Ashvim threat is very serious, for local indigenous peoples like them are on the brink of survival. The chief asks that the alien race be defeated. As far as Minjun understood, the Ashvim were considered aliens here as well. Then why open such a channel and create a conflict between dimensions? Foolish mortals. You are like insects to me. Why should I worry about your death? You're the ones who made a mess of my territory. And now you're talking nonsense and you don't even realize it. Heh heh heh. All right, that's enough. You've shown me something interesting. Seeker angrily calmed down, poking Minjun on the chin, and talking about how it's a gift from him sends them back to the Dell dimension. Everyone has a headache, and the chief says the Seeker let them go. The sheer amount of information gained in a small amount of time did not settle in the white-haired young man's mind. He is called out by Gur, who points to a pile of barrier wood in 3 sacks. Since the giants didn't, they assumed it was a gift from the Seeker. And the bags contain the seed of the barrier tree, which needs to be preserved according to Parvash. The village will be safe for a while, but we'll still have to fight the ash fiends to get more barrier wood. I didn't realize the Seeker would be so indifferent to us. Gur says doomily about it. The Ashvim are far more numerous than the white-haired young man thought, and they are furious. Closing the portal with a barrier wouldn't be enough. They could overwhelm it with numbers. Minjun remembers what the critters did to the humans. Distracted from his indignation, the boy suggested an idea to the chief. Yoon will make sure the Ashvims won't attack again, and the giants will move the barrier trees closer to the canal. They hesitated briefly, but still agreed. It is very difficult for them to understand their human friend. The giants wondered why Yoon was just sitting still. Didn't you see the magic he used? It's obvious he might have a plan we never would have thought of, says Gur to Hickam. The giants finished their work, and the chief said they'd better get back before they attracted attention. As they left, they looked back at their human friend who continued to sit. Somewhere in there, he was choosing a stronger defense. Minjun wants to make a contract with a demigod and summon him. It's a cool idea, but Parvash is more interested in something else. Will there be a suitable candidate? Some demigods offer contracts with strange terms. Others may go insane and kill the one who summoned him. Minjun liked one demigod, Black Kirin. Parvash asks not to rush the young man, for he's a strong demigod, but with a tough character and rather difficult contract terms. It's about rare plants. Black Kirin likes to grow strange flora from other dimensions and is unlikely to contract with someone weaker. Yoon suggested using the seed of a barrier tree. It could work, of course, but it's one of the most dangerous demigods out there. She once had enough of a bad mood to kill a contracted creature. Compared to the risks that happened recently, this is nothing. Will I be able to go through her channel in avatar form? Says the white-haired young man. The red-eyed boy decided to take another risk. The demigod is caring and humming something, tending to his strange plants from other dimensions. Minjun turned to Black Kirin. He says he would like to contract, and the payment would be a barrier tree seed. The Black Kirin headed toward the white-haired boy. Is there a funny guy here to see me? Asks the demigod, taking off his glasses and revealing his eyes full of fury and teeth, as if from a ravenous beast. An open portal to the middle of the wasteland. An endless stomping can be heard, causing the ground to tremble. The Ashvim crowd is rushing somewhere. An insanely huge number of creatures that Minjun had already been waiting for. Answer the call, Black Kirin! Utters the white-haired youth. And so, in all his splendor and majesty, the demigod appeared. Parvash is surprised that the boy summoned such a serious and dangerous demigod for something like this. It was the most suitable option that Black Kirin even agreed with. She said not to worry, for she would fulfill her part of the contract. The demigod transformed into its actual majestic, dangerous form. Black Kirin is so huge that Yoon next to her is a mere particle. I'll kill you all! She shouted in a hellish voice and lunged towards the alien bastards. The Ashvims look, from this demigod's view, look like pesky lice. With a bird's eye view, she lands on the head of one of the creatures. The bastards were enraged at such behavior from an unknown creature. Destroying one by one, there's an endless medley going on. To her, they're worse than insects. The Black Kirin will kill every one of them. With her huge claws, she cuts their bodies just so. She uses her entire body, including her pointed tail. Yoon silently watches the fierce battle where only Black Kirin kills. The boy is amazed at the power of the demigod Parvash spoke of. The channel inside Minjun's chest is different from the others. The red-eyed young man is not only able to pass through high-level portals, but also summon powerful beings. However, with the current strength, controlling the demigod white-haired guy wouldn't be possible. Therefore, he should always be on guard. Hey, what's the holdup? It's all over now, Black Kirin cheerfully informs. The battlefield reeks of corpse odor. According to the contract, Minjun fulfills his duty of giving the seed of the barrier tree. Black Kirin is happy to deal with the white-haired young man. The red-eyed boy is done with business, and the barrier around the portal is ready. Yoon Minjun is returning to Earth. The portal, surrounded by nothing but rubble, appeared in the middle of the street. A white-haired boy floats in the air, above the city of Seoul. The Seeker is gone. Yoon Minjun is now free. All this time you've been practicing and hiding, so you haven't been able to enjoy life, right? Is there any place you'd like to go? Parvash asks the red-eyed young mage. A bustling, people-filled street with brightly colored signs. Yoon Min has only seen this street on TV and on the internet. He marvels at what he sees in front of him. He looks at a franchise he's seeing for the first time. Thinks it sells hamburgers. The white-haired guy greedily devours the unhealthy deliciousness. Later, the red-eyed boy decided to dress up a bit. It plays a useless yet exciting con. Same city, but it looks different. It's big. Very different from what I saw from my room, thinks the young man sipping his drink. Yoon Minjun thought about traveling the world now that the Seeker was gone. The boy heard a news program. A news channel anchor reports that foreign publications are reporting breaking news. A few days ago, there was an incident near the Khan River. Similar phenomena have been observed all over the world. Reported by Kim from New York. This is Manhattan, New York. A huge stone statue has appeared in the center of the city. No details yet, but residents are very surprised. New report. Strange creatures have appeared in Houston, Bangkok, Thailand, Austria. Rio de Janeiro went underwater. An army of strange creatures have made their way into Berlin. A huge monster has turned Egypt's Cairo into a sea of fire. Channels opened all over the world? The red-eyed young man said fearfully. Monsters around the world are destroying people like ants. As you can see, Cairo has turned into a sea of fire. A huge snake-like monster has appeared here, says a reporter. While Parvash watches the news channel, the mage is engrossed in playing games on the device. The spirit tries to draw the guy's attention to the problem of the world formed because of the canals, but Minjun can't take his mind off the console. The white-haired reclusive mage is unwilling. About 60 channels opened up around the world, and I cowered in the corner of my room for a week. Any race of monsters can appear from the portals. That's why Minjun has to stay under the barrier. Traveling and walking sound interesting to him, but he has enough playtime and food. With his behavior, Yoon scares Parvash. A moonlit night in which bright particles dissolve. Something's going on in town. Minjun is disturbed by what's happening outside his windows. The noise keeps him awake, causing him to rise from his comfortable bed in anger. Parvash assumes someone is knocking on the barrier, and the white-haired young man complains that he can't sleep for 2 days. It can only be spotted by a creature with magical power. Maybe we should check it out, suggests the spirit. Yoon whines that there's not a moment of peace for him, and the robot tells him to get dressed. The white-haired boy went to investigate the source of the noise, somewhere in the southeast about 500 meters from them. Parvash asks not to relax, as this could be a dangerous race, but the red-eyed boy is annoyed. The spirit noticed that Yoon Minjun hadn't gone out for such a walk for a long time. He explains that there is no reason for him to do so. They've left the barrier. This is where Mokdon ends. The white-haired boy contemplates increasing the volume of the barrier, but Parvash turns his attention elsewhere. It's someone else's barrier. They are located near Chonmok Elementary School. Someone had placed a barrier at the edge of Minjun's barrier. It seems it's needed to conceal magical power, but you can't hide from my gaze, the red-eyed boy says sternly. He enters this barrier to reconnoiter the situation. Inside is a completely different space. Parvash asks to be careful, for they do not know what could be here. The locals approached Minjun to ask who he was. The sunny town of Langley, Virginia. Infernal beings are slowly wiping out the Earth race. A dark-skinned bald man pauses a video report. He notices to his colleague that the world is in chaos because of an alien invasion. In front of him sits Agent Simon. Their abilities and propensities are difficult to predict, unlike humans, but the CIA cannot abdicate its duty to protect national security. Informs a man in glasses to an agent. He reports that they have captured one of the alien race to fight their own. Subject IR-76, aka Eraser. Creature's ability to brainwash religious people using their faith. A dark-skinned man asks Simon a serious question. Does he believe in gods? Maybe faith is not a religion, but some abstract beliefs. He addresses the principle saying that he denies the very existence of gods, and it has always been so. A narcissistic agent is insulted by the silly interrogation because he is an elite agent who inherited the calling from his father. A black car with Simon inside arrived on the scene. If the stories are to be believed, his dimension is inhabited by some kind of seeker. He's looking for something in our world, the employee informs the agent. This something has to do with the existence of the Earth. The information requested may give them some ideas. Mokdong District, Seoul, South Korea. An employee pulls out a key card that opens a door with an alien. The agent confidently enters the armored room. Good afternoon, Agent Simon greets. Mr. Eraserhead. The creature is humanoid in appearance, eyes shrouded in bandages and himself in a straitjacket. Suddenly, one eye opens and he says with a devilish smile that he is glad to see the man. The white-haired boy expected monsters, but he saw something amazing. A cat girl and some guy with a band-aid on his forehead were staring at him intently. Greetings, Elder, they said, bowing. Minjun and Parvash look at what's going on, not quite getting the point. Cosplayers? Or spies who have let their guard down? Suspects the white-haired young man. The spirit only wondered at the existence of a race with such ears. Bowing, the boy, with a patch on his forehead, says that meeting an elder with such a powerful soul in this city was a great surprise to them. The guy continues to narrate. They have not been in the human world for a long time, so their knowledge is limited. They ask Yoon Minjun, still calling him an elder, to share his wisdom. The red-eyed young man asks them not to rush things. He wants to understand what is happening and asks where they came from, what race they are, and why they call him elder. They looked at each other, not realizing what was wrong. Catgirl thinks that if you stay in the human world long enough, there are times when you lose some of your memories. Ha! I'm going to have to take care of a decrepit old man? Damn! Snorted the boy with the band-aid on his forehead. Minjun heard everything perfectly and let the boy know about it. Out of desperation, the boy begins to use magic. He wants to show the elder a dream that will help bring back his memories. He blew his magic toward the red-eyed young man. Minjun becomes as if in a fog. This is the first time he has encountered this kind of magic and assumes it has to do with the mind. Behind him, the boy notices a bright light. Elder, for a long time, we races that cross the wall have been living together to avoid the evil creature, tells Catgirl. She demonstrates the back rock. Many different races have long lived here. They faced overpopulation, so they set out to find a new home. The situation became more complicated when creatures from China migrated to them. Catgirl says that an evil creature disappeared recently, so they have a chance to relocate. Minjun wonders what evil creature she's talking about. She talks about the dragon, and Yoon thinks he's still the Seeker. There was a sudden rift in space. The elders of Backrock decided to find out what was wrong. The white-haired boy logically ponders that by breaking up space, they mean the canal. The Catgirl and the boy with the band-aid on his forehead went to Hanyang to investigate. We'll be there soon. The boy cheerfully informs his friend, who has suddenly become alarmed about something. The next moment, he crashes face first into the protective barrier. As Catgirl screams about her friend's head bleeding, he frantically punches the barrier. Minjun realized who was the source of the sound that was disturbing his sleep. The girl still addresses Yoon as an elder and asks to lend them her wisdom. The human world has changed a lot, but the red-eyed young boy's barrier is very impressive. The boy remarks that humans are not capable of such great magic. The white-haired kid says he's not an elder, just an ordinary man. The girl's friend once again calls Minjun a decrepit old man. The kitty came so close to the red-eyed young man that he started to pull away in panic. She sniffs his head and he obeys her actions, but doesn't understand why she would do that. Gasping, she whips the white-haired young man away from her. "What the hell?" screams the Catgirl. Her brother's name is Garam. His sister has bad news for him about the smell, for she is doomed to remember it for the rest of her life. Yoon Minjun is definitely a person with a very strong soul. That's what the white-haired young man was talking about. Texas, El Paso. Agent Simon asks Eraserhead about the reasons for opening the channels. The interviewee says that he has heard this question many times, but it is difficult to answer. His English is not good enough to describe it. Simon thinks about the fact that so many hours of interrogation and no result. He's having a hard time because the usual interrogation techniques don't work. The opponent is an alien with brainwashing powers. A being with superpowers that can control the minds of religious people? Is interrogation even possible? If my father were in my shoes, how would he do? Would he handle it easily? Legendary, talented, my dad, thinks the agent. Lost in thought, Agent Simon was distracted by Eraser. Both sides of the interrogation need answers to questions. The blonde man decides to ask first. The agent asks for any information the alien may know about the incident shown on the tablet. In order to accurately see all the details shown on the device, Eraser has a second eye. He immediately clarifies that it was definitely not their weapons that worked on the murders of this race. A red-skinned humanoid alien begins to rejoice that clues have emerged about an important subject on which life on Earth depends. He asks for the geolocation of the painting in question, but Agent Simon refuses to answer because he was going to ask the questions first. "Why are you interested in this incident?" asks the blonde man. He realized that what happened in that place seemed interesting to the alien for a reason, at the clarification that the monsters were not killed with their weapons. Eraser cites poor English and wants to talk reason, but Simon won't allow it. A three-eyed citizen of another race talks about that Mage's spells, but the agent doesn't quite know what he's talking about. That magic is summoned from a higher world. The two worlds cannot be connected. The difference between them is great. The agent doesn't understand how it could happen. Originally, it was impossible, but someone still managed to do it. Then the blonde man asked why the aliens wanted this mage. The seeker of our world wants to ask him a question. To bind what cannot be bound, says Eraserhead. The red-skinned humanoid monster's fourth eye had already popped out. The seeker wants to learn similar things, but the agent wonders what the seeker is. The monster wants to speak mind, but the blonde demands to speak the words Eraser knows. Simon then starts to ask the previous questions, but Red flatly refuses, saying it's complicated and reasoning would be easier. Blondan is annoyed by his opponent's lack of cooperation. He thought of his father again, for he could use his advice at such a difficult time. He was always his support, his idol. The agent notices that everything is blurry in his eyes, and he doesn't remember how many eyes were originally open. Eraser spoke mind as he wanted to. The man praises Simon for a job well done, for it must have been difficult. 2 glasses of whiskey are poured, listening to the good news that the principal's help has borne fruit. The agent reassures the principal that the fruit will go further. Richard would love to see you. He'd sure be proud of your work, says the man, holding up a glass of whiskey on the rocks. Simon doesn't understand who the principal is talking about. The man in the brown uniform did not appreciate the joke, for it is about the subordinate's late father. The principal realized that the object of faith could be more than just God. Simon recklessly shot the man with his weapon, hitting the bullet directly in the forehead. "Well done, son," says the voice in my head. The agent obeys that voice, calling the father. Says Echo, asks to be transferred to Alpha. Violation of detention conditions. Code red. Male on radio requesting assistance. The muzzle of a gun pointed in his direction. The SWAT team sees this brutal sight, but they are all going head-to-head with Simon. He activates that very door with a keycard. In the middle of the room, a man sits on a chair and says to the agent, "You did a good job, son," but it was a racer who brainwashed the blonde and is now a father figure. He communicates by mind. He found the young man's weak spot. The monster orders us to go to the city, which is called Seoul. Someone's swearing at someone for smoking in the house. Garam says they're not cigarettes, but Minjun swears anyway, since he doesn't need smoke in the house. Catgirl greedily eats pizza slice by slice. Yoon regretted letting the guests into his house. The white-haired guy explains to Parvash that if they had gone outside, they would have done something. Besides, he's curious about something. "So, tell me, who are you guys?" Minjun asks, sitting down on the floor to them. Garam irritably replies that they've talked about this already. Catgirl scolds her brother, since they owe the human, but the cat snorts about not being allowed to tell people much. Minjun helped them check the space gap and they were able to make a report to Backrock. She sees this guy's strong soul. She is comparable to elders who have lived for thousands of years. The white-haired boy wondered about her ability to see the soul, an unknown form of magic. As beings who cross the wall, they have lived in these lands since the beginning of time. Even then, they cooperated with some humans. But one ordinary day, everything changed, and an evil dragon appeared in their lands. The ancestors fought hard, trying to fight back against the mighty angry creature, but they suffered greatly and left the land. The evil dragon declared the mainland his territory. Yoon Min-jun says there is no record of such a war left in their history. At the time, human civilization was too small. After the defeat, our interactions ceased and they forgot about us, sadly reports the cat girl. The white-haired guy asks for an explanation as to why Garam is peacefully and sweetly sleeping in the middle of a conversation. As the girl assumes, the brother gets involved with Backrock. Garam has the ability to do this in his sleep. Sis asks about what's being said in Backrock. He reported that the cleft in space is stable. The elders want to organize a meeting. They will receive an answer in a few days by letter. Then they would have to hang around, to which Garam agreed. "No, who gave you permission?" asks the red-eyed young man. But then he thought that the form of their magic that interacts with dreams, sees the soul, was unknown to him. He would take the opportunity to find out more. Because of using the power in his sleep, Garam feels that he is about to starve to death. Minjun talks about pizza, but Catgirl has something to tell him. Bro exclaims upon seeing the toaster and calling it a proper thing. While the red-eyed guy is baffled by what's going on, the sister laughs, talking about how Brother Garam's race feeds on metal. Minjun snatches the toaster out of the boy's hands, which he has to as food. But Garam arises, for he then has nothing to eat. While Malloy talks about taking care of the guests, Minjun contemplates just kicking them out. A white-haired young man went to a construction store, but a cat girl headed with him, who wants to see what's outside. She is surrounded by tall buildings, different smells. It's very different from the past of human civilization. Of course, since it's been so many years since the last interaction with humans. The sheer scale of it makes a girl's head spin. She smelled the dazzlingly delicious aroma of food. The cat girl is stupefied by these flavors. Minjun asks not to go near the food. The white-haired guy agrees to buy Chinchu some food. A lady with a bag and a stack of papers is heading toward them. She bumped into his shoulder, for which Yoon apologized. The woman, wearing a smile, holds out a leaflet to him, saying that if the young man joins the Jean religion, he will be saved. The red-eyed guy silently turned away from this aunt who was spreading faith. Without saying anything, she walked on. The woman walks further down the empty street. She returned to the church with a burning red cross. The aunt went inside the building where the room was empty and unlit. She found it strange that no one was there and even the lights were off. She entered the worship hall and found her brother praying. She noticed that he was praying very hard and asked about the leader, whether he was in the office. He keeps repeating the same phrase, "Long live the Lord God." The woman is a little tense. As she moves away from the man, she thinks about the fact that he sometimes gets too immersed in prayer. "Leader, I'm here," knocks on the door. She peeks into his room, thinking the leader is asleep. But the woman found only the breathless, brutally murdered body of a man. She can't believe her eyes. An eraser comes out of the shadows, saying that people have a very funny religion. After all, the leader didn't believe in God at all. Then he asks the woman, "What about you? Do you have faith?" She wanted to run and call the police, but there was a man behind her who kept praying. He grabs her head and she cries out convulsively. Eraser approaches her in his guise and asks her to prove herself to her. To prove how strong her faith is. The woman is struggling to resist, but the humanoid monster's powers are stronger. The eraser takes over the mind of this poor believer.
Pet the cat.